I want to say, before I talk about who Yutzchak Ginzburg is, that I am not an extremist, leftist, and I actually am more central, right-wing, but definitely not extremist. My political views are for peaceful coexistence when possible, defending an IDF. The IDF is, for me, the one who should be setting order wherever there is violence, and not people who decide to shoot random Arabs and justify it. So this man was affiliated with Chabad, and of course, Chabad does not associate with him, because they are absolutely not for violence. They are value relationships. If there's something you can say about Chabad, they value relationships. And from my experience with them, I can say a lot of things about Chabad, but they're very respectful of other people. They don't force themselves on people. If you want to put on tefillin, you go ahead and do it, but they absolutely do not force themselves. Contrary to what's happening in this building, when they took over a synagogue, and they took over people that have a lot of emotional problems or come to Israel and don't know what religion is, and they make so much noise and chaos, and the children are left alone, unsupervised, because they're too busy with their very extremist way. I don't think they earned any fans among the regular people in this neighborhood. Quite the opposite. People have called the police several times because they make so much noise. They get drunk, they bang on tables, and they take innocent souls of poor people that come to Israel and are very lost and lonely, and they just tell them that this is Judaism, to make noise on Saturday, to ignore neighbors, to laugh at women like me who ask for them to be quiet, and at 3 o'clock on a Saturday to finally go home. So it's no wonder that people that follow a rabbi like this behave the way they do. The fish smells from their head. So Ginzburg's way is against Judaism, and they are the worst type of Messianic Jews. Not Messianic, but they believe that they're going to bring the Messiah by bringing down the Zionist, secular, liberal people, and they have to dismantle Zionist secular ideology, which is why they attack also army, the IDF. They want to overthrow the government in order to pave a way for a Torah-based rule. This way of thinking is very similar to ISIS and Al-Qaeda, except they're not as violent yet. Ginzburg would impose halachic-style regime, and you can see, instead of Sharia law, and you can see how they deal with women. Or I didn't even try to think how non-Jews are dealt with. Violence against Arabs, sadly. The Ashkenazi chief rabbi Avraham Shapiro criticized Ginzburg's views. He defended his student who was firing indiscriminately at Arab laborers in Tel Aviv. They have clearly no limits, and their children look so lost. They don't recognize the children need to sleep, maybe. So they are here from 8 in the morning, and if the police hadn't come at 3:30, the kids would have been here till midnight. The kids have absolutely no rest. They don't realize that children need supervision. They're put by the side of the road. And this rabbi, what is he like? He defended Baruch Goldstein, a man who had a nervous breakdown, according to my view, and massacred, hopefully he didn't do it knowingly, he massacred Palestinian worshippers, all kinds of conspiracy theories. And the Jerusalem Post asserted that Ginzburg had called the massacre a mitzvah, a religious... this is like the worst of the worst, because they don't realize that, they just cannot even look at life from another perspective, but a very extreme one. In his writing, Ginzburg gives prominence to halachic and Kabbalistic approaches and I do love Kabbalah, but not this Kabbalah, that emphasize the distinction between Jew and non-Jew. I mean, that's all the religion. Religions are not nice. They separate people. But with them, it gets very extreme, very much like Iran, imposing and like Iran, they don't respect their own people when they have other opinions. And they treat, the way I was screamed at by a young man is the way Palestinians are screamed at, IDF soldiers are screamed at, and I've heard from soldiers that they had stones thrown at them. They were called Nazis, of course, and other names, because they don't really recognize a secular entity or a non-extreme religious, because I don't view myself as secular at all. Imposing a clear separation and hierarchy in this respect. He claims that while Jews are the chosen people, that's fine, the Gentiles don't have a status. If a Jew requires a liver transplant, it would be permissible to seize the Gentile forcefully. This man is a nightmare. He actually claims that he permits the murder of non-Jews. Except by war. Okay, war, I understand. I also agree that if somebody wants to kill you. So what they do is they wrap their poison. They wrap their poison in, I'm not against violence, but look at how they behave. On March 10th, 1996, Ginzburg was arrested for administrative detention for 60 days for his pronouncements that the state should take action against Arabs in response to the wave of terror attacks. But what he does, everybody agrees that we should act against terror. That's one thing. But what he does is, these are vigilantes that go and attack people that are completely uninvolved, and just take a bet, let's go against the Arabs, burn their village, because they don't consider non-Jews as people that have any sorts of common sense, and they think they're actually going to be respected after they treat other people like a piece of shit. And I experienced it myself today, the way I was screamed at for asking for them to be quiet while we were under a rocket attack. Right. So we have breaking news of soccer. Life does go on. He was indicted on charges of encouraging racism against Arabs in his booklet, Tzav HaSha'ah. It's really ridiculous. I mean, if he had to go to the hospital and there was an Arab surgeon, would he say, and there was the only expert was Muslim, what would he do? And when they go to the pharmacies, do they say, most of the pharmacists are Arab, so I wonder how to deal with that. Unbelievable. He publishes very, very extreme opinions, endorsed the killing of innocent children as a way of taking revenge on their parents, has been condemned by the spokespeople for both the conservative and reform movements and the Anti-Defamation League. So, and he uses price tags, tzav, tag mechir, acts of vandalism, unsupervised acts. They just go and they just decide to punish anyone who's Arab. And they don't mind that Arabs build homes, okay, maybe not their homes, or are pharmacists or doctors or anything in society. I agree that we should fight people that try to kill us. But the problem is he initiates acts of violence before they want to kill us. And I have to say, for the Arabs that live with us, they have to endure so much extremism, violence. And yet they come to work. They work in restaurants and in shops and in building sites and in pharmacies and in hospitals. And there are delivery. They bring food. And yet the majority of non-violent Arabs are not recognized by this man because he is a racist. And women like me who dares to speak out, and I'm not in their neat little box, I get attacked verbally and maybe physically later.